Okay, so we're going to put it in parentheses. So I'm going to take 2 times the quantity of x plus 2, and then we'll take the quantity, and then I'm going to multiply 5 times 3, which is 15. And what do I do with these 2 cross multiplies? Set them equal. Okay. Then what? Distribute, so 2 times x, 2x, 2 times 2, 4 equals 15. Then what? Subtract the 4, awesome. So we get 2x equals 11. And then what? Divide by 2. And can I divide 11 by 2? No, so we leave it as 11 over 2. Okay. Good. Number 2. Do you guys like these big fractions in equations? No. So how could I get rid of the fraction? Sam? Right, I'm going to multiply everything by its common denominator. And in this case, there's only one denominator, right? So I'm going to multiply by 7. So I'm going to multiply every little thing by 7. So you can write it like this, where you distribute it to everything. Or as I did it in notes last time, is I took the 0 times 7 equals 2x times 7. And then plus that 2x minus 8 over 7 times 7. So either way. Go ahead. What is 0 times 7? 0. So that's good. Equals 2x times 7, 14x. Plus, now, if I'm taking 2x minus 8 over 7 times 7, what happens to these 7s? They cross out. So I'm just left with what? 2x minus 8. That's nice. Now we have no more fractions. Do we know how to solve this problem? Yeah. What's 14x plus 2x? 16x minus 8. And then what? Add the 8, and I get 8 equals 16x. And then what? Divide by 16. And I can't divide 8 by 16, but you can simplify it, as I heard, as 1/2. Great. Good job. Right, any questions with that? Is there any questions that you guys want to go over from homework that you guys can think of? Any crazy story ones? Or not story problems yet. We haven't done this one yet. You guys are looking real quick. Jackson, do you see any that you wanted to? I know you're looking through homework right now. So anyone else? Any problems that you guys wanted to go over? Or think about it and then get back to me if you have before the end? Yeah. Oh, yep. Go ahead. 15 on 299. Is that what you said? Okay. All right, so 15, we had 0 equals 3m minus 3m minus 7 over 8. All right, we go to that. Second one. All right, so we want to get rid of what? The 8, right? So I'm going to go ahead and multiply everything by 8. Okay. So 0 times 8, 0. 8 times 3m, 24m. And then I'm going to subtract this quantity, right? So what is 3m minus 7 over 8 times 8? 3m minus 7, but because this is in the minus side of a fraction, we have to put it in parentheses in that sense, because we're subtracting off this entire quantity, right? Adding the quantity is the same, but when I subtract, what happens to that 7? It actually becomes a positive 7. So 24m minus 3m is 21m, and then a negative make a positive. A lot of people tend to put a minus 7 there. That one needs to be a plus 7, okay? Now, how do I move 7 over? Subtract it. And then how do I get rid of the 21? Divide it. So m would equal negative 7 over 21, which simplifies to what? Negative 1/3. Okay. Did I do the right problem? Okay. All right. Any other ones that you guys want to go over? Yes, ma'am. 27. So we have 1/2 times 2x plus 5 minus x equals 3/4 times the quantity of 6x plus 7 over 3. All right. Now, if you notice, this actually represents multiplication, right? So either A, I can distribute these both through first, then deal with the fractions, or do you want to get rid of just that, the fractions first? Fractions first. Okay. Now, when I do that, though, when I multiply by my common denominator, I'm only going to multiply by the 1/2, the 3/4, and the x. Why don't I multiply by the quantities there? Go ahead. That's already technically part of the multiplication problem. Exactly. Okay. So what is my common denominator between 1/2 x and 4? 4. So I'm going to multiply those by 4. 4 times 1/2 is 2. So we're going to have 2 times the quantity of 2x plus 5 minus 4 times x, 4x, equals, what's 4 times 3/4? 3 times 6x plus 7 over 3. Now, the nice thing is because I'm distributing a 3 to this fraction, what happens to these 3's? They actually cancel each other out, don't they? So now, what's 2 times 2x plus 5? 4x plus 10 minus 4x equals 6x plus 7. What happens to these 4x's? They cancel out because 4x minus 4x is 0. So we have 10 equals 6x plus 7. Then what? Subtract the 7. So I get 3 equals 6x. Divide by 6. And what's 3 over 6 simplify to? 1/2 as well. And there you go. Okay. Does that make sense? Yeah. The biggest thing is everyone wants to keep multiplying inside the parenthesis. You only do what's being multiplied. Okay. Huh. It's actually up for me, but you know. Okay. No, you're fine. Any other ones that you guys can think of? Anyone at home have any questions on those pages that you did? Let's go ahead and look back at that 7-3. Okay. We just had to do our 2-story problems, didn't we? Yeah. And you guys see story problems and you guys kind of freak out sometimes. Is that true? Yeah, kind of. But I know you guys can do these. Okay, really, really do. Okay. So we're going to write an equation for each problem, then answer the equation. Okay, so we have 2 things we need to do here. Okay, so let's break this down by sentences. 1/8 of a number. What does 1/8 mean? 1/8 of a number. What does of mean? Multiply. And what's a number? Do we know the number? No, so let's just make it x. You guys okay with that? 1/8 x is the same thing as x over 8, isn't it, as well? Yeah, okay. Is. What's is mean? Equals 10 less than. What does less than mean? Subtraction. Now, is it 10 minus or minus 10? Minus 10. Good. 1/3 of a number. So 1/3 of a number means 1/3 times x, or x over 3. Hey guys, you just wrote your equation. Can we solve this? Do you guys like fractions? No. So let's multiply everything by its common denominator. And what's its common denominator? 24. So let's multiply everything by 24. Okay. So 1/8 of 24 is what? 3. So we have 3x equals 1/3 of 24, 8, minus 24 times 10. 240, thanks. Yeah. Now we have no fractions. Can we solve this? Yeah. How do I move 8x over to the 3x? Subtract it. And what's 3x minus 8x? Negative 5x equals negative 240. And then what? divide by the -5. I kind of ran out of room there. So x would equal, what's a -240 divided by a -5? Negative or positive? Positive. So guess what? My number is 48. And you guys just did that. Was that too hard? No, it wasn't too bad. You guys see story problems and you're like, oh, I don't like them. And you want to skip them. You can do these. I know you can. Okay. The length of a rectangle is 3/2 of its width. So length, what does is mean? Equals 3/2 of means multiply its width. Do we know its width? No, so that's just W, right? So didn't that first sentence say length is, so length equals 3/2 times W? Yeah. It takes 50 meters of edging to create a border. If we're doing a border, guys, computers need to be put away, please. You should be paying up here, okay? Border. What does border represent? If we're talking about a rectangle, is border the area or the perimeter? The perimeter, right? The border is perimeter. And how do we find the perimeter of something? You add up all the sides. So my perimeter, or could I just do 2L plus 2W? Would that work? Yeah. So do we know what my perimeter is? Yeah, my perimeter is 50. Well, Aubrey, we're just working on those story problems from 7.3, so you haven't missed too much, okay? Equals, okay. Thank you. 2 times, what is my length? What do we say my length equals? 3/2 times W plus 2 times, isn't our width just W? Yeah. Now, would we know how to solve this? Yeah, do I need to multiply everything by its common denominator? No, because I'm taking 2 times 3/2. And what's 2 times 3/2? What happens to those 2's? Don't they just cancel? And I'm left with 3W plus 2W. And what's 3W plus 2W? W, so equals 50. So what does W equal? 10. So what does my length equal? Let's think, 3/2 times W, which is 10. So what do we get? 15. So what is my dimensions? If it's length by width, it'd be 15 meters by 10 meters, or you could do 10 meters by 15 meters, but, right? Does it matter? No. And there are your story problems for this one. Okay. You do have a problem like this on your quiz on Wednesday. Okay, so make sure you know that. Okay, it might be area, but it's the same idea. Okay, I have to remember. All right, any questions on 7.3 now that you guys can think of? So we are done with 7.3 now. So you guys will have an assignment on 7.3, and it's just the story problems, 1 through 7 odd. So I gave you odd problems. Why? To check your work. But do you have to show your work? Yes, you do. Okay. All right, 7.4 is fractional equations. So instead of just having equations on the denominator, we're going to have variables on the denominator as well. Okay, and if we have variables in the denominator, don't we have some kind of restrictions on what x can be? Yes, because we know x can't ever be what in the denominator, or what can a denominator ever be? 0. So we have to kind of think of that in that sense too. When we have variables in my denominator, what can't x actually be in that sense? Okay, so a fractional equation is an equation with a variable in the denominator of 2 or more terms. So if I look at this real quick again, what can't x be in a? X can't equal 0. Why? Because that would give 0 in my denominator for that first fraction. Are you guys okay with that? Okay. Now, just like we did before, do you guys like fractions and dealing with fractions like crazy? No, I don't either. So I'm going to look for my common denominator. So we have an x, so we need to use an x. And then look at your numbers, 4 and 12. What can 4 and 12 both go into? 12. So I'm going to multiply everything by 12x. You guys think you can do that? So I'm going to write this a little bit bigger. So I'm going to, and then minus 1, 4 equals. So I'm going to multiply each one of these by 12x. All right. So if I'm taking 3 over x times 12 over x, what happens to these x's? Don't they cross out? So I really have just 3 times 12, which is what? 36. Minus. Now for 1/4 times 12, I can't cross out the x, but can I cross out the 12 and the 4? What does 12 over 4 simplify to? 3, right? So what is 1 times 3x now? 3x equals 1/12 times 12x. What can we simplify there? The 12, right? And those become 1s, right? So what's 1 times 1x? X. And there you go. We don't have any fractions anymore, do we? No. Can we go ahead and solve this? Yeah. How do I move 3x to the other side? Add it. So we get 36 equals, what's 1x plus 3x? 4x. Okay. And then how do I get rid of the 4? Divide by 4, and x is 9. There you go. X is 9. Does that make sense? Yeah. Because if x is equal to 0, wouldn't my denominator be 0 of that first fraction? So that's why. In this case, we're lucky because x is only 9 and x9 is the only value to work. Now, when we look at like the 7 minus m, m can't be 7 in that case because we might end up getting like m squared and then things like that. And if we end up, when we cross multiply and get m squared, we have 2 answers that we can use, right? And where one might not work in that sense. Okay. All right, let's look at D. Is there any value A can't equal in D? 0 again, right? Why? Because 2 times 0 would be 0, and 3 times 0 would be 0. So in that case, x can't be 0 in this case as well. The chance of this, because there's no plus and minus sides, do you think we're going to end up with 0 in my denominator for A? No, it's not going to happen, but we're just kind of getting our idea on when things could not equal it. All right. Now let's look at our common denominator. So if I look at this, each of these have an A, right? Well, 2 of them. So we know we have to have A. And then look at our numbers, 2, 6, and 3. What can 2, 6, and 3 all go into? 6. So my least common denominator is 6A. So we need to multiply everything by what? 6A. And I'm just writing this a little bit bigger for us to see. Okay. So let's multiply by 6A for everything. All right. So 3 over 2A times 6A. What happens to those A's? Don't they cross out? A divided by A is 1. What about the 6 and the 2? Can I cross out 6 and 2? Yeah, what does 6 over 2 simplify to? 3, right? So what's 3 times 3? 9. Is everyone okay with that? All right. Now 5, 6 times 6A. Can I simplify the 6's? Yes. So they're both what? 1. So then what's 5 times 1A? 5A equals 2 over 3A times 6A. What happens to those A's? They cancel. And what about 6 over 3? 2. So then what's 2 times 2? Hey guys, we have no fractions. Can we solve? Yeah. How do I move the 9 over? Subtract the 9. So we have negative 5a equals negative 5. And then what? Divide by negative 5. So a is what? 1. So we only have one answer here. So obviously x is not going to be 0, right? Yeah. All right. Now, looking at b here, do you think we need to do the same thing, b and e, that we did before in the other ones? What's different between b and e and a and d? We do have subtraction over. What else? They're proportions, aren't they? These two are proportions. So do we have to go through and multiply by the least common denominator? No, these ones here are just proportions. And how do we solve proportions? Just cross multiply. And again, when it's a proportion, it's just a fraction equaling a fractions. There's no plus or minus signs next to each other, right? So now, remember, 2 minus x and 3 minus x, we got to put parentheses in, okay? What can't x equal, guys? X can't equal 3. Why? Because then wouldn't my denominator be 0 in that side? Yeah, okay. So let's cross multiply. I'm going to take 9 and multiply it by what? 2 minus x, good, equals, and I'm going to take 4 and multiply by what? 3 minus x. Is everyone okay with that? And now let's cross multiply, or let's distribute, excuse me. 9 times 2, 18. 9 times x, 9x, good. 4 times 3, 12, and 4 times negative x. 4. Is everyone okay with that? Now, do you guys want to move the 9x or the 4x? 9x, and how would I move a negative 9x? I would add it. So 18 equals 12, and what's a negative 4x and 9x? 5x. Then how do I move the 12 over? Subtract it. And I get what? 6 equals 5x, and then what? Divide by 5. So x is 6 over 5. So again, was it 3? No. Okay. Go ahead and do E on your own real quick. Go ahead and do E on your own. Then we get to more challenging ones. You guys at home doing okay? Any questions so far? Right. So let's cross multiply because these are proportions again. So I'm taking 3 and multiplying it by the quantity of what? 5 minus m equals 2 times what? 7 minus m. What can't m equal? 7, right? Which I don't think you get 7, do you? No. So we're good. All right, let's distribute. 3 times 5, 15. 3 times the negative m. Good. 2 times 7. And 3 times negative 2m. Or 2 times negative m. Negative 2m. I don't know what I was doing. All right, how do I move the 3m over? Add it. we get 15 equals 14. What's negative 2m plus 3m? M, or 1m. And then how do I move 14 over? Subtract it, so m is equal to 1. Good job. All right, any questions so far? All right, looking at C and F, are these proportions? No. So we want to go ahead and multiply everything by its least common denominator, right? What do I have to do first with these? Don't I need to factor them to find it? So let's look at b squared minus b. What could I factor that to? Do we have a GCF? Yes. What's my GCF? B. And if I take a b out, what am I left with? B minus 1, right? Okay. So now, for my least common denominator, this is 1 over 1, right? What do we see in common between all three fractions or denominators? B minus 1, and then what is left over? Just a b. So this is my least common denominator. Is everyone okay with that? Okay. Now, what can't b equal? B can't equal 1, or b can't equal what? 0, because it's based off your common denominator. Okay. Why? Because if I throw in 0, wouldn't my denominator be 0? And if I throw in 1, 1 minus 1 is 0, so that denominator would be 0, right? Okay. Now, let's actually multiply. I'm going to go ahead and just rewrite this for a second. B squared. Actually, I'm going to do it in factored form. All right. So now I'm going to multiply each one of these by b times b minus 1. The second one's easier, right? What's 1 times b minus 1? Isn't that equal to b squared minus b? Is everyone okay with this becoming this? Yes, okay. Now let's look at the other ones. What happens to the b times b minus 1 times b minus 1? Can I cross those all off? Huh? Oh, it is a 2. Why did I put a b? Thank you. I don't know. So that's a 2, not a b. I don't know why I put a b there. But everything would cancel out, so I'm left with what? 2. Are you guys okay with that? Now, looking at the second fraction, minus. Can I cross out the b minus 1s? Yes. So now I just have 2 times b, which is 2b. Okay. So we have 2 minus 2b equals b squared minus b. Because
I have a question.
I'm sorry, yes.
Like when you cross it out, isn't there a b squared under the 2? So, like, is there like why did you get rid of all? I was like confused.
Because remember, b squared minus b factor to b minus 1, or b times the quantity of b minus 1.
Oh.
So
Okay.
So if I'm multiplying it by the same thing, wouldn't all of that cross out?
Yeah, I thought it was still, sorry.
Yeah, no, I started writing it in non-factored form. That's why I had to change that.
Okay.
Okay. All right, now, because we have b squared, how many possible answers can I have? 2. So we need to set our equation equal to what? 0, right? Because this is b squared, we're going to have 2 possible answers. So b squared is positive, so let's move everything to the b squared. So how do I move this negative 2b to the other side? Add it. And I can add that to that regular b, right? How do I move a positive 2 to the other side? Subtract it. Is everyone okay with that? So then I get 0 equals b squared. What's a negative 1 plus 2? 1b minus 2. Is everyone okay with that? Yeah. You're welcome. It's weird because I can see it here. I just can't see it up there. All right. So now, I know it's a little, yeah, it's a little messed up. Yeah, I'm stuck on cords. We'll leave it right here. All right, so now can I factor this? Yeah, so once you get it equal to 0, we're going to factor. So the nice thing, A is 1, isn't it? So we're just going to go into our 2 parentheses, and we're going to get B in front. So now, what times what is -2 that adds to be +1? 2 and 1, right? Which one's positive and which one's negative? +2, -1, right? So now, what are my 2 answers? So this equals 0. So what are my 2 answers? B plus 2 could equal 0, and B minus 1 can equal 0, right? So what are my 2 answers? B would equal -2, and B would equal 1. However, guys, could B equal 1? No, so the only solution for this is what? -2. The only answer, because B cannot equal 1. Okay, B cannot equal 1. So in this case, we really only have one answer, right? So our answer is -2, and we need to exclude that 1. Okay. All right, let's look at that second one here. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and just write this. Now, looking at F, aren't these already all factored? Yeah, so we don't have to worry about factoring it, but we do need to find our common denominator, right? Do we have anything in common? No. So our common denominator, we have to list everything. So we're going to have a y minus 5. We're going to have a y plus 5. And we're going to have a y. Okay. So now, real quick, what can't y equal? Y can't equal 0, 5, and -5, right? Because every single one of those would give my denominator of 0, wouldn't it? Okay. So now we're going to multiply every fraction by this common denominator. So we're multiplied by y times y minus 5, y plus 5. Y times y minus 5 times y plus 5. Y 5, y plus 5. All right. So now, looking at the first one, what can I cross out? Y minus 5. So we're going to have 5 times y plus 5. Is everyone okay with that? Minus. What can I cross out here? The y plus 5, right? So I'm left with 3y times y minus 5. Is everyone okay with that? Equals. Here I can only cross out the y's, so I'm left with 2 times y minus 5 times y plus 5. Whew, that's a lot, isn't it? Now, do we know how to distribute things? Yeah. What's 5y times y? 5y squared. 5y times 5. 5y. Now, right off the bat, I see y squared, so we could have a possible of how many answers? 2. Okay, let's keep going. Huh? Sorry. -3y times y. -3y squared. A negative and a negative make a positive. And what's 3y times 5? Equals. Now here, let's go ahead and FOIL this out first. What do you guys notice about y minus 5 and y plus 5? Right, if we go to FOIL these, what's going to happen to our outside and inside terms? They're going to cancel out because a -5y plus a positive 5y, isn't that 0? So we really only have to do the y times y and the 5 and -5. So what's y times y? Y squared. And what's 5 times -5? -25. Is everyone okay with that? Now, can I go ahead and distribute the 2? So 2 times y squared is 2y squared, and 2 times negative 25. 50. All right. So now let's combine like terms. Okay. What's 5y squared minus 3y squared? 2y squared. 25y and 15y. 40y. Equals 2y squared minus 50. How do I move that 2y squared to the other side? Subtract it. So what's going to happen to those 2y squareds? They're going to actually cancel. So how many answers are we actually going to have here? Just one. And how do I get rid of that 40? Divide it. So y would equal negative 5/4, right? So is that as bad as you thought it was? No. Listing it out, and then you can just cross them out. That's why I kind of wrote big in this sense. Okay? If you show your work, it makes it easier because you can cross things out in that sense. Okay? All right. And then just our last couple. Story problems. You guys love story problems, right? Okay. The sum. What's the sum mean? Addition. So we're going to add. Of a number, what's a number? X. And its reciprocal. What's the reciprocal of X? 1 over X is equal, right? 26 over 10. Isn't X the same thing as X over 1? Yes. So now, real quick, is this a proportion? Can I just cross multiply? No, so we need to find our common denominator. So do we have anything in common? No, so we're just going to list everything then. So we have a 5 and an X. So we just need to multiply everything by X, right? What can't the X be? X can't equal 0. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and multiply everything by 5x. All right, so the 1 doesn't matter here. What's 5x times x? 5x squared. So how many answers are we going to have? Probably 2. All right, plus what happens to these x's? They cancel each other out. So now I'm just left with 1 times 5, which is 5, equals. What happens to these 5's? They cancel, but my x is still there, right? So what's 26 times x? All right. So is my x squared going to cancel out in this one? No. So we know we have to factor in this sense, okay? Now, how would I move 26x to the other side? Subtract that. And where would it go? In the middle. So minus 26x plus 5. Now, a is not 1, right? So we have to factor by grouping, right? So I'm going to start with 5x squared. I'm going to end in plus 5. Okay. Now, what's my a times c in this problem? 25. And we're adding to be what? Negative 26. So what times what is 25 that adds to be negative 26? Huh? Negative 25 and a negative 1. So negative 25x and a negative 1x. You guys okay with that? So what is my GCF between 5x squared and 25x? 5x. And what's left over? X minus 5. Because my first term is negative, I need to pull out a negative number. And it's a negative 1. And I'm left with a positive x and a negative 5. So what is my factor form? 5x minus 1 and x minus 5. So we're factored, right? But have we solved it? No. So how do we solve this? Set them equal to 0. Yeah, break them apart, set them to equal to 0. So what are my two answers? X equals 5, because you add the 5, and 1 over 5. Why? Because you add the 1, divide by 5. And X couldn't have equaled 0, right? Huh? So both of them work, because what's the reciprocal of 5? 1/5. And what's the reciprocal of 1/5? 5, right? Right. Go ahead and do B. The sum of a number and its reciprocal is 13/6. Find that number. The sum of a number, keep working. The sum of a number and its reciprocal would be X plus 1 over X, right? Is 13/6, so equal 13/6. Okay. So what is my common denominator here? 6X, yeah, exactly, 6X. What can't X equal? 0 again, right? All right, so I'm gonna multiply everything by 6X. What is X times 6X? X times 6X is 6X squared. What's 1 over X times 6X? Doesn't my X's cancel? And I'm left with just 1 times 6, which is 6. Equals 13/6 times 6X. The 6's cancel, and 13 times X is 13X. So now I need to move the 13X over, right? So how do I move the 13X over? Subtract it, and it's going to go in between the X squared and the 6, so that we're in standard form. Okay. So we're going to factor by grouping. So 6X squared plus 6. All right. What times what is 36 that adds to be negative 13? What? Negative 9 and negative 4. Again, it doesn't matter the order you put those in. I just put 9X first. You could have done negative 4X. It doesn't matter. So what's my GCF between 6X squared and 9X? That 3X. And if I take out a 3X, I'm left with 2X minus 3. Because 4X is negative, I have to pull out a negative number. And what's my GCF between 4X and 6? 2. And I'm left with a positive 2X, and a positive 6 divided by negative 2 is a negative 3. So factored form, put my GCFs together, which is 3X minus 2, and then the other binomial, which was 2X minus 3 equals 0. So now we factored it. Now we actually have to solve it, right? So I'm going to set 3X minus 2 equal to 0. Sorry, that kind of stuttered. 2X minus 3 equals 0. So what are my two answers? So I'm going to add the 2. So I get 3X equals 2. Divide by 3, so I get X is 2/3. Add the 3. So I get 2X equals 3. Divide by 2, so I get 3 over 2. Aren't those reciprocals of each other? Yes. So just like that. All right. Any questions with that too? No. All right. Next class, we'll do the last story problem. Okay. So you don't need to worry about that one right now. All right. Your homework assignment is page 300, 1 through 7 odd, and page 305, 7 through 37 odd. Okay. The first ones are your story problems from 7-3. Give me 1 second. Are your story problems. And then these are from 7-4. I do not have any word problems like the example 2 here. I don't have any word problems for 7.4 yet. Okay. Now, your quiz on Wednesday, right? It needs to be done by when? By 2:45. Okay. Your quiz is just 7.2 and 7.3. There is one extra credit problem over 305. Okay. Page 305. Okay. Make sure you guys show all work, and you will either upload your work to the quiz or email it to me. If you do not email or upload it, I will give you a 0. Okay. I think we're third quarter, or yeah, we're almost done with third quarter. We should know that by now, right? We've done this enough. Okay. Liam, you got a question? Yeah, there's actually on my desk, there should be a stack of like my pre-calc stuff. There's line paper right underneath on my book. Underneath it should be some line paper. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Is there any questions at home so far? Please don't hesitate to ask any questions if you have it. Do you see any, or is it? So please, raise your hand up, and if you have questions, ask me right now, okay? I want you guys to do well and understand all of this. Okay? And then if you guys saw any other questions from homework, ask. Oh, I'm sorry. It's all up there. Liam, it's right up there. Do you see it? Yeah. Yeah, not a problem. Okay. You guys at home doing okay? I'm gonna go ahead.